So, you probably think you've got a handle on internet fraud, right? Especially after, well, everything that happened globally during the pandemic.
Yeah, that surge was huge everywhere.
But what's been going on in China, it's a kind of a different story. It really shows how fast these tactics can change, how they're hitting completely new groups, and with, frankly, alarming success. So, welcome to this deep dive.
And we've got some really interesting source material for this one. Articles, reports. A lot of it leans on insights from an IT journalist who's really been, tracking these shifts right there on the ground.
Right. So our mission today is really to understand this huge evolution in China's net fraud scene. We want to look at who they're targeting now, why them specifically.
Yeah, and the new tactics they're using, which are pretty sophisticated.
Exactly. And what the fight back looks like, and maybe why some of the old defenses just aren't cutting it anymore.
It's true, internet fraud went up everywhere with the pandemic, more online shopping, more remote everything. But the sources really stressed that China saw this particularly sharp, almost overnight change.
A real transformation.
Yeah, in the types of scams and who was falling for them. It's a unique case, I think, with some important lessons.
Okay, so let's dig into that shift then. What did things look like before COVID really changed the game?
Well, the sources indicate that before COVID hit, China had actually been seeing a decline in internet fraud. For about 5 years, actually.
Really? That's counterintuitive, isn't it? What was working so well?
It seems like it was largely down to some pretty significant coordinated efforts. Yeah, the government's National Anti-Fraud Center working closely with the police,
Okay.
and also the big tech companies like 360, Tencent, Alibaba, they had these dedicated white hacker teams.
Ah, right. The good guys using hacking skills.
Exactly. And they were apparently quite effective at tracking down criminals, getting intelligence to law enforcement. It was making a difference.
And the kinds of fraud they were dealing with back then, what were the main targets?
It was mostly older methods, go back maybe 5+ years, and malware spread through just accessing dodgy websites was a big thing.
Okay.
Then, closer to the pandemic, it has shifted more towards targeting middle-aged people, and investment scams were like the #1 thing.
So promising big returns, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Often pretty mass scale, not super personalized.
Okay, so things were actually getting better, but then the pandemic hit.
Precisely. And the sources point directly to the economic hardship. Lockdowns, businesses closing. It created this perfect storm.
How so?
Well, you had more people maybe facing financial desperation, potentially turning to fraud themselves. And at the same time, you had way more people struggling financially, making them more vulnerable to scams promising quick or easy money.
Gotcha. A double whammy. And this is where the sources say that really dramatic pivot happened.
Absolutely. The most striking change, the one everyone highlights post-COVID, is this complete shift in who the main targets are and the type of scam they're using.
So not middle-aged folks and investments anymore?
Nope. Instead of them, fraudsters started heavily targeting young people, specifically the 90s generation, so people in their 20s.
Wow.
And the main lure wasn't investments, it was side job scams, task-based scams, that kind of thing.
That statistic you mentioned from the report is really startling. Over 60% of victims after COVID are in their 20s.
Over 60%. Yeah, it's just a massive demographic flip in who's getting hit by this stuff in China.
So what does that mean? I mean, why young people? Aren't they supposed to be the digitally savvy ones? It feels weird.
A paradox?
That paradox is exactly what the sources try to explain. And the core reason, it seems, isn't necessarily a lack of digital literacy in the, traditional sense.
Okay.
It's the fraudsters' new approach. They first managed to get hold of detailed personal information about their target.
And then, armed with that info, they craft these really tailored scam scenarios, specifically designed for that individual.
Ah, okay. So it's not about falling for a badly spelled email anymore. It's about them knowing things about you.
Exactly. It's about trust and perceived legitimacy. Think about if someone calls you, maybe claims they're from customer service or your bank or even some official agency,
Wow.
and they know your real name, maybe where you work, maybe something you just bought online. It instantly cuts through that initial suspicion, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes it feel real, like it's not just a random cold call.
Precisely. It feels like a legitimate contact.
And the sources had that really powerful example, didn't they? The streamer.
Yeah, the Bilibili streamer, Bosang, big following,
Yeah.
like 1.5 million fans. And he lost a lot of money, 250,000 yuan.
Which is about
About 4.5 million Japanese yen, yeah. A huge amount.
So how does someone like that, someone who lives online, basically fall for a scam?
Well, again, it's that tailored approach. He gets a call. Woman says she's from the China Banking Regulatory Commission. Right off the bat, she knows his real name, knows he's a streamer.
Okay, that's already disarming.
But here's the really clever bit. She also says she's a fan. Says she watches his streams, enjoys his content.
Wow, that's insidious. Mixing the official with the personal.
Totally. It just makes her seem so much more credible. It lowers his guard even if he had some initial doubts.
So what was the actual scam, the usual your account's frozen thing?
Pretty much the classic, your account is at risk play. She warns him his bank account is about to be frozen,
Hmm.
advises him to move his money to a safe account she provides, just temporarily,
Yeah.
for protection.
And she didn't just rely on the call, right? There was more.
No, she backed it up. She sent him an image on his phone, looked like an official document from the Banking Commission.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that document listed the account where he needed to send a guaranteed deposit,
Hmm.
first 20,000 yuan, to sort of validate his account and keep the rest safe.
And he sent it.
He sent the first amount. And then, unfortunately, they convinced him to send more. It ended up being 250,000 yuan in total.
Ugh. When did he realize something was wrong?
It was only after sending all the money that the doubt really kicked in. He called the police.
And they confirmed it?
They did. Confirmed it was a pretty typical scam pattern, actually. They traced the call origin overseas, probably Myanmar or Cambodia, common bases for these operations.
Mhm.
And they basically told him getting the money back was, well, highly unlikely.
That's just devastating. But his story didn't end there, did it? He shared it.
He did. He decided to make a video about the whole thing, share his experience on Bilibili as a warning to others.
And that got attention.
Huge attention.
Yeah.
Went viral, got something like 8 million views, way more than his usual videos.
Wow.
And interestingly, the Ministry of Public Security's own anti-fraud center actually promoted his video on their official Weibo account. They used it to raise awareness, told people to download their anti-fraud app.
That's something, at least. Did the views help him financially?
Apparently, yeah. The surge in views from that video actually helped him recover some of the financial loss, which is, a small silver lining.
That story really drives home how knowing those personal details is the key. It overrides suspicion, even for someone totally immersed in the online world. And it also shows how the tactics go beyond just simple calls now.
Exactly. If you look back at the older methods, they were often kind of like the or scams you see in Japan sometimes. Mass calling, basically.
Just dialing random number.
Pretty much. Calling from overseas bases, Thailand, Vietnam, places like that, using big lists of numbers.
Yeah.
Simple pitches like investment scams, just trying their luck with whoever answered. Not very targeted.
And presumably a nightmare for police to track down.
Oh, absolutely. The money would get moved super fast through layers and layers of accounts, often crossing borders. Really hard to trace. Plus, being overseas made it easier for them to get things like fake IDs, burner phones, much harder in China itself because of the strict real name registration rules there. And getting international police cooperation, well, that's always complicated and slow.
Yeah, I can imagine. But this new wave, it's not just humans making calls anymore, is it? The sources mentioned AI.
Yeah, AI is definitely part of the new toolkit. It's a big shift. Fraudsters are using AI voice chatbots now.
Like the ones you get for, I don't know, delivery updates or surveys.
Exactly like those. The source actually mentioned systems like iFlyTech, which is used in healthcare, or Alibaba's Caniel Logistics uses AI for delivery checks. They're basically weaponizing that legitimate tech.
How does that help them?
Scale and efficiency. It's huge. These AI chatbots can make an incredible number of calls. The sources suggest maybe 100,000 calls an hour.
Whoa.
Yeah. They act like a massive filter. They blast out calls, quickly identify people who might be receptive to the camo, as the sources say they call potential victims, and then they hand off those promising leads to actual human scammers to do the convincing and close the deal.
Okay, so we know the efforts before COVID were having some success. Fraud was going down by 2019. And there's these new tech tools now, too. So how well are these countermeasures working against these, AI-boosted personalized attacks?
Well, the pre-COVID stuff, the real name registration, the white hackers, that was pretty effective against the older, mass-calling, less targeted scams. It made their lives harder.
Right. And what about the specific tech tools available today?
There are definitely tools out there trying to combat this. The National Anti-Fraud Center has its app, right? It's supposed to alert you if a call or message seems suspicious, checking numbers against known scammer lists.
Okay.
Tencent has something called Bingo AI. It scans WeChat and QQ messages, looking for dodgy content and warning the user.
And you mentioned one that answers calls for you. That sounded interesting.
Yeah, that's Alibaba's Tianmao Jingling Aha app. It uses AI to actually pick up calls from unknown numbers. It listens,
Hmm?
figures out what's being said, gives some basic appropriate replies.
Seriously.
Yeah, and then it converts the whole chat into text for you to look at later. So the phone doesn't even have to ring. You just check the transcript afterwards and decide if it was legit or just block the number.
That's clever. And payment platforms are doing things too.
Yeah, especially for protecting older users.
Yeah.
Alipay, for instance, brought in features like needing a supervisor's okay for big payments or putting a delay like several hours on large transfers.
To give people a chance to realize before the money's gone.
Exactly, a cooling off period, basically.
These all sound like pretty good ideas, solid defenses. But the sources are clear. Fraud surged anyway, so why weren't these tools enough?
I think the core issue is that the fraudsters fundamentally changed their tactics. The older defenses often rely on spotting known bad numbers or obvious fake links. But when the attack starts with a call from a number you don't know, but they do know your personal details, making it seem legit, and then they shift into these tailored scenarios or try to manipulate you into these gray areas we'll talk about, the automated tools just have a harder time catching it compared to the old mass attacks.
Which brings us right back to these really sophisticated tactics. How are they getting the personal data in the first place? The stuff that makes the initial call so convincing.
Yeah, that's crucial. The sources talk about a thriving black market for data, often operating in these locked, hidden WeChat groups to try and stay under the radar.
And where does the data come from?
It's aggregated, pulled together from lots of different places. Phishing sites are big sources. Fake login pages, fake registration for dodgy stuff like gambling or porn sites, fake delivery notifications asking for details.
Okay.
And also, worryingly, data seems to come from various data breaches that have happened over time. They scrape it all together.
And how are they using it beyond just knowing your name or job?
Well, one really common tactic described is impersonating e-commerce customer service.
Ah.
If they've got access to compromised account data, they might know what you bought recently. Let's say you just bought some specific makeup.
Right.
They call you up, claim there's a problem with that exact item, maybe a quality issue, and they offer you a refund.
Okay. Sounds helpful.
But to get the refund, they direct you to a fake website, looks like the real e-commerce site, and you have to log in with your username and password.
Gotcha. And because I knew what you bought, you trust them.
Exactly. Your guard is down, you enter your details, and boom, they've got your account credentials.
That's incredibly targeted. What about that other one the sources mentioned, the 29 yuan scam? That sounded more like a psychological play.
Oh yeah, that one's fascinating. It's really a masterclass in exploiting basic human psychology.
Mm-hmm.
It starts when you get an unsolicited package, cash on delivery, but the cost is tiny, just 29 yuan. Now, because there have been scams before where people paid CI'd for empty boxes or junk, a lot of places in China now let you check the contents before you pay.
Right. Makes sense. So you check it. It seems okay. You pay the 29 yuan. What's actually inside?
Inside, you find what look like really valuable e-commerce gift cards, maybe worth 200 yuan in total value.
Ah, so you think you've scored a bargain.
Exactly. Even if you're a bit suspicious because you didn't order it, the potential gain 200 yuan seems way bigger than the tiny cost of 29 yuan you just paid. It feels like a really low-risk gamble. So people pay the 29 yuan.
Okay, so you've paid. Now you want to use the cards.
Right. There's usually a QR code or something inside leading you to a website to activate the cards.
Let me guess.
Yep. It's a phishing site. Looks legit. Asks for your e-commerce account login and password to activate the cards. You type them in, thinking you're about to get your 200 yuan prize.
And you've just handed over your account details.
Precisely. The genius, or the evil genius of it, is the low initial cost gets you to pay. Then the sunk cost, having already spent the 29 yuan, makes you feel committed, more likely to follow through and try to activate the cards, maybe ignoring red flags about the website.
And the victim probably thinks, oh, well, I only lost 29 yuan, so maybe they don't even report it.
That's a huge part of it. They're less likely to report such a small loss, while the scammers have potentially gained access to their account, payment methods, everything.
So stealing credentials is one angle. But the sources also highlight another major strategy, luring victims into activities that are, well, murky, gray areas, or even outright illegal stuff.
Yes, and this is a really potent angle. The psychology here is crucial. The idea is, if the scam involves the victim doing something questionable themselves, they're going to be far less likely to go to the police if they get ripped off. Their own fear of getting into trouble or just the shame of it makes them silent victims.
So it makes the scams harder to track, harder to investigate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It basically weaponizes the victim's own actions and fear against them.
Can you give some examples from the sources? How does this play out?
Sure. Um, One example was during the peak of the COVID mask shortages. Remember how desperate people were?
Yeah.
So scammers set up an illegal mask resale scam. They'd offer masks, maybe via WeChat, but at hugely inflated prices, which was actually illegal under the price controls at the time.
Okay.
Victims would pay, often using something like WeChat Pay, but the masks would never arrive. Now, because the victim knew they were trying to buy masks illegally,
They wouldn't want to report it.
many hesitated, yeah. Didn't want to admit their own part in it.
What about using e-commerce credit systems?
Yeah, the Beijiao scam. So Beijiao is like a credit service on platforms like JD.com, lets you buy now, pay later.
Okay.
The scam involved fraudsters contacting people, often those needing cash, and asking them to use their Beijiao credit to buy specific goods, phones, electronics, whatever, and ship them to an address the fraudster provided.
And the catch.
The fraudster promises to pay the victim back in cash immediately, minus a small fee. So it seems like a way to convert your e-commerce credit into ready cash.
Which sounds tempting if you're strapped for cash.
Exactly. But of course, after the victim buys the goods and ships them, the promised cash never arrives.
And they're still liable for the Beishio debt.
Precisely. And here's the gray area part. Using Beijiao like that, essentially as a cash advance service for a third party, actually violates the platform's terms of service.
Ah. So again, victims are reluctant to report because they broke the rules.
Yeah, they might worry the police won't take it seriously, or they might get in trouble with the e-commerce platform. It complicates things.
There was also a darker one involving illegal content access.
Yes, the porn site scam. Since pornography is illegal in China, accessing it is already risky. Scammers would send out SMS messages advertising super cheap access like $1 a month, incredibly low.
Okay.
The user clicks the link, goes to pay. The payment screen looks like it's charging $1, but the actual charge that goes through is way higher, maybe 500 or 600 yuan.
Yeah. Ouch.
And again, the victim is in a bind. Do they report being ripped off while trying to access illegal content? That could lead to fines or other trouble for them. Many just swallow the loss.
And the one targeting women seeking side jobs, that
Oh.
sounded particularly nasty.
It really is. The video chat companion photo scam. They recruit women, promising high pay for basically being online video chat companions.
Okay.
During registration, they asked for photos. Maybe start by saying it's anonymous, mask over the eyes. But then they push for more revealing photos, maybe partially undressed, lingerie claiming it's needed to attract clients, even if only the face is shown publicly later.
But they keep the full photos.
Secretly, yes. They keep everything. Then, if the woman tries to quit or complains, the threat comes. They use the ID and address she provided during registration and threaten to release the sensitive photos to her family friends online, unless she pays a large fee to have them deleted.
That's blackmail. Pure extortion.
Absolutely. And victims often pay out of sheer terror and shame. But there's zero guarantee the photos are ever actually deleted. And reporting it, extremely difficult due to the sensitive, embarrassing nature of the photos and the whole situation.
It's really clear these scams are preying on so much more than just financial need. It's fear, legal worries, shame, deep psychological vulnerabilities.
Totally. And there are other variations too, offering illegal ways to boost your views if you're a streamer on TikTok or Bilibili, promising backdoor access to fast-track COVID vaccines when they were scarce.
Same pattern, though.
Yeah, pretty much. Pay money for something dodgy or illegal, lose the money, lose contact.
So we've been focusing a lot on China, obviously, but these kinds of sophisticated, targeted scams, they're not just staying there, are they?
No, definitely not. The sources make it clear this rise in really sophisticated internet fraud is a global thing. The U.S. has seen big increases. Japan, too.
Japan. What are the sources saying there?
Well, they cite Japan's Phishing Countermeasures Council. Their reports showed a four-fold increase in phishing reports in 2020 compared to the year before. And it kept rising in 2021.
Wow, 4 times. And are the tactics similar?
Very similar, it seems. Things like impersonating big trusted companies using those tailored messages. It sounds like the same playbook.
Which suggests, what, are these groups connected internationally or just learning from each other?
It strongly suggests either direct links or at least very rapid sharing of successful tactics among criminal groups around the world. What works well in China today could very easily be hitting users elsewhere tomorrow.
It really underlines that we all need to stay vigilant. This isn't a problem that's going away. The fraudsters are just getting better.
Yeah, I think this whole deep dive really highlights a few key features of how internet fraud looks now in China, especially post-COVID, but with lessons for everywhere.
Okay, let's maybe try and summarize those key takeaways. What are the defining characteristics now?
Okay, first, and this seems critical, getting hold of personal information first. Using that data to build tailored, specific scam scenarios that feel real and bypass our usual skepticism.
Right. Personalization is key. What's second?
Second is this strategic use of invitations into activities that are, borderline or outright illegal. Questionable side jobs, buying illicit goods, accessing banned content, that kind of thing.
And the third point follows directly from that.
Exactly. The victim's reluctance to report. Because they were involved in something shady or just feel ashamed or scared of getting in trouble themselves, they often stay silent. And that silence helps the fraudsters keep going, undetected for longer.
So given all that, what practical advice do the sources offer? How can people actually protect themselves against these more sophisticated, psychologically manipulative tactics?
They give some pretty grounded advice. Number one is just be way more cautious about handing over personal information online, especially if it doesn't seem necessary.
Like for signing up to random services?
Yeah. Think twice before registering for sketchy services. If there's an option to use a trusted social login, maybe do that instead of creating a whole new profile with all your details.
And when you do have to register for something legitimate,
Don't overshare. Those optional fields, asking for your income, your specific job title, family details, often you don't need to fill those in for the service to work. If a site demands really personal stuff that seems irrelevant, maybe just don't complete the registration. Walk away.
good point. What about managing the data that's already out there, like old accounts?
Yeah, this is important. If you're deleting an app or closing an account, don't just remove the app from your phone. Go into the account settings first. Actively delete any saved personal data, payment card info, things like that, before you close the account or delete the app.
Because just deleting the app doesn't delete your data from their server.
Exactly. And the sources warn, if a service just disappears one day, who knows what happens to all the user data they still hold. Better to clear it out yourself if you can.
Okay. And probably the most crucial advice, especially thinking about those gray area scams.
Absolutely refuse to get involved with any dodgy offer promising easy money, especially if it involves doing something illegal or ethically questionable. The sources are pretty blunt here.
Yeah.
They say, you might think you're being clever, bending the rules to make a quick buck, but you are far, far more likely to end up being the victim yourself. These fraudsters are experts at exploiting the very risks they encourage you to take. Don't play their game.
And if the worst happens, if you do get scammed, even if you feel embarrassed or scared about what you were trying to do.
Report it immediately.
Why?
Go to the police, go to consumer protection agencies. They are there to help, and they handle things confidentially.
And reporting helps fight back.
Massively. Reporting makes you less likely to be targeted again because your case is logged. But more importantly, it helps the authorities understand the latest tactics, track the criminals, and warn others. Your report is a piece of the puzzle needed to protect everyone else.
So while things like the anti-fraud apps are useful tools,
They help. But as we've seen, they're not a magic bullet.
right, because the fraudsters just keep adapting their tactics. Prevention really comes down to constant awareness, critical thinking about every interaction, every offer you see online.
Yeah, this deep dive really paints a picture of a dramatic shift, doesn't it? From those broader, simpler scams hitting middle-aged people in China to these incredibly sophisticated, personalized attacks using stolen data, often exploiting legal gray areas and psychological weak spots, primarily targeting the young.
The core seems to be get personal data, build trust through that data, then use tactics that either directly steal credentials or make the victim too afraid or ashamed to report it.
And yeah, while the tech countermeasures are racing to keep up, the fraudsters are agile. It puts the onus back on us on personal vigilance as the most reliable defense right now.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Considering how good these fraudsters have become at using our own information against us, exploiting psychology, exploiting the law, how much does just knowing about these tactics actually protect you? And what does this constant arms race, this tech and psychological battle, mean for our safety online going forward? Not just in China, but for all of us. Really makes you reconsider your own digital footprint, every click, every interaction.